Bret Baier in New York. Our next panel is an interesting one, talking about building back healthier, a vision for the future. Talking about the world stage, equity, how health can be transmitted to different communities around the world in an equal way. Joining us here, Nomzamo Mbatha, actress and Goodwill ambassador, the UN Refugee Agency, and Professor Muhammad Yunus, 2006 Nobel Laureate, founder of the Grameen Bank. Thank you very much for being here. You know, we were talking earlier about the issue of health across different communities, especially the refugee community, and what that means. It's such a massive issue around the world.
Absolutely. I mean, you look at the SDGs that the United Nations have, compelled the rest of the world to follow. We already were facing a lot of the social and economic financing gaps, or what we call it the UN donor fatigue. And donor fatigue was basically, most of the low income and middle income countries were the ones who are facing a $40 trillion infrastructure gap. So for me, we can't speak about the future without speaking about youth participation. And I think that's where we need to also focus on.
Professor, what actions do public and government entities, private sector leaders need to take to kind of ensure that we have the health systems that we need?
Well, the health system as it exists now is a dysfunctional system to begin with, and the COVID-19 has made it very clear. As it approached, as it came, with most of the public health system really collapsed. It didn't have anything to deal with, and there was no global guidance, global system which can help people to survive, protect themselves. And he mentioned about the healthier future. Sounds like a cruel joke when people are dying right now because of the vaccines. Pandemic has spread all over the world. But when the vaccine came, we're hoping that this will protect the life of the people around the world. But that's not how it happened. It went only to lucky 10 countries. 80% of all the vaccines went to the rich countries, the lucky 10 countries. And the rest of the world is with 20%. And the continent like Africa got about 2% of the people vaccinated so far. And if it continues like that, it will probably take 57 years to get the vaccinated done. So we don't see any future being healthier. It's getting worse. How many deaths are waiting? And the vaccines, they promise that they will not give it to anybody because they will want to make lots of money out of it. And the vaccines, we are trying to make it patent free so that it could be available. It could be produced globally. That's not what they want. They want to protect it with the walls of intellectual property right. So we have the knowledge. The entire world has knowledge how to protect the life of the people. But the money-making businesses want to make sure they make the maximum out of it by protecting it to give it to the highest bidder. Forget about the millions of people who will be dying because of the vaccines. So that doesn't say that we will be a healthier world. We're just approaching a massive number of deaths because we could not even manage our knowledge system. That the knowledge, we are not asking for money. The countries don't ask for money. They don't ask for free vaccines. All they want, they can produce those vaccines so that you remove that barrier, what you put with the intellectual property right.
But Professor, how do you change that dynamic? How does that dynamic shift?
It's very simple.
This is where we
it's very simple.
Accurately portrayed.
Yeah, sure. Just to make a decision at the WTO in the TRIP Council meeting, unanimous decision. All the countries of the world almost agreed right now. I think the meeting will be on 26th of September in New York at the UNGA General Assembly. Only country is still Germany. It has to be a consensus resolution. Every country has to agree. Germany is sticking out. They don't agree. Every other country, including USA, Biden himself declared that they would join in the resolution to make a waiver of the intellectual property right. So this is one country is stopping make it available intellectual property right to remove temporarily, not permanently, so that every country has opportunity to produce it in their country so that this vaccine is available. So we have to bring lots of pressure to persuade countries who are still not signing up.
That is part of President Biden's speech here to the UN General Assembly, we're told. For the refugee issue and for different communities, there is this equity issue when it comes to vaccines and health particularly.
I mean, I think equity for the larger definition of it is just equal access. You know, we can't say that we're moving forward into a new world or building better or building healthier, as Professor said, without actually having a larger conversation about the equal access to resources, the equal access to your vaccine, the equal access to quality education. And that won't happen only on government's shoulders, as we've seen. You know, good governance is needed, 100%, but we also need private sector. We need philanthropic funding. We need those who have the muscle, those who have the access and who have the ways to cast the net to be able to lift the lid of invisibility and truly make a change and walk the talk. Yeah.
There's a lot of people that I don't think, fully understand the refugee problem. I mean, some countries obviously deal with it day to day, Jordan, for example, and others who have refugees in their country, but you are an ambassador, you acknowledge that this is a massive issue around the world.
Right. It absolutely is. You know, we speak about global climate, but one of the predecessors, or the things that actually, not predecessors, but the byproducts of climate change is human migration, forced human migration. People don't want to leave their home. Everybody wants to be home, right? You know, but unfortunately, because people want to, you know, we see that there's a lot of funding that goes towards climate change, but there's not a lot of funding that goes to human migration or forced human migration and the refugee crisis. The refugee crisis, we're looking at 80+ million people that are forcibly displaced, 80+. And so how do you change that narrative? And in changing the narrative, it's saying that, you know, refugees are not an economic burden. They're actually economic assets. But it's about unlocking that. And it's also about absolutely injecting the funds that are needed so that people can become sustainable in their own way.
Professor, as we wrap up here, are there lessons learned from COVID-19?
Oh, yes.
And
yes.
Prepare us for the next pandemic, the next health emergency around the world?
Yeah, we learned a lot during the pandemic, during this crisis that we have. First, we learned that although we promised ourselves multilateral solutions to the problems, we found out that we have no basis of multilateralism. We became isolated islands for ourselves. Everybody protecting themselves. That's why the whole idea of whole terminology of vaccine apartheid came. Everybody is trying to protect themselves. That's why rich countries pouring in their money to get their vaccines out from the production channel. Others cannot get to it. They have excess vaccines available to them, but others are waiting in line, not getting the vaccines. So this is a lesson that we have to feel that all the thing about talking about the global village, it really doesn't exist. We are all isolated islands, no matter what. When the time comes, this is where we go to. So we have to redesign the world completely. And this design, the world that we have created led to the terrible problems like global warming. Is a product of our own doing, what we have done. And IPCC report just told us that we have only 20 years left before 1.5 degrees Celsius heat temperature reached. And then we are at the point of no return after that. So it's only 2040, that's about it. And we are promising everything will happen by 2050. I hope 2040 we can avoid that. So this is one, global warming, and then there is extreme wealth concentration. All the wealth of the world is in the hands of few people, including in the United States. People don't have the wealth. Wealth is belonging to a small number of people in the United States. Similarly, in other countries also. It is, again, the net result of the economic system we built. So the wealth is away from the people. And bulk of the people, 99% of the people at the lower end of the income, they don't have the wealth. Wealth belongs to 1% of the population who are way up in the sky. All the wealth, 99% of the wealth there. So we have to redesign that system where wealth and the people will be living together, not separated out like the way it is done. And then we create the artificial intelligence, what we have. This is what we learn, that artificial intelligence will take away all our jobs, all our activities in the world. We become a garbage on this planet. So we need to design. So this opportunity COVID-19 pandemic gives us to reflect what the kind of world we have built, and we create a new world for us, a world of 3 zeros: zero net carbon emission, zero wealth concentration, and zero unemployment, by unleashing the entrepreneurship among the people. That's the kind of thing we have to do. And there's a great lesson that you have done. And one conclusion that the pandemic gives us: no going back. We don't want to go back to the old world that we are coming from, which is a suicidal world. We are all going to commit suicide with the global warming, with wealth concentration, with massive unemployment created by the artificial intelligence. So we need to decide during this pause that given by the pandemic, this pause, we decide no more going back. We are going to get a new direction, a new destination for the world with the 3 zeros: zero wealth concentration, zero artificial intelligence, and zero net carbon emission.
I mean, that's fascinating. Obviously, huge to get there as a in the world, and we're talking about some of those issues here at the UN General Assembly this week. But let's leave on something optimistic, which is this awareness has increased, right? And the problems that we're talking about at this forum and others does bring awareness to these issues.
Absolutely. And I think, just to touch on the point, we shouldn't look too much on where we were, right, on the world before. There's no way we're ever going back to that world again. It's about the progressive point of view that we need to have now. What does the future look like? This is why we're here. We want to know what the future is going to look like. We want to know what kind of participation does everyone need to have, from the healthcare, from the scientists, from the educators, from the activists as well, even from the artists ourselves. What are the narratives that we're going to be putting out? What are the social policies that are going to be changing? I think it's important for us to remain optimistic. We want to be here. We want to enjoy this beautiful planet. We want to enjoy this beautiful life that we have. We also want to be able to uplift those marginalized populations around the world. Again, it's not about looking back, it's about looking forward. And, there's been a lot of groundwork that's been done. There's a reason why FII Institute is hosting such an incredible and grand conversation. It's because they have equal participation. They are in the trenches. They want to build a better world. And as it was conveyed at the G7 summit, the B3W, build back better for the world. That's exactly what we're going to do. And maybe it's the optimist in me, but
No. Well, listen, you have a busy schedule. You have fun doing this?
Absolutely. I want to stay here the entire day. Can I stay?
Well, thank you very much. Professor, thank you very much. We're now going to bring on the man who runs, Richard Attias, to wrap us up here. Richard?
Thank you, Professor Yunus. Thank you for your thank you for your loyalty. Thank you for your friendship. It's always good to see you. Thank you, Bret, for this great moderation. Thank you, Nomzamo, for your great word. I would like to rebound off what you said. Let's build the future together. I think it's a very good program. I like it. And how to build it? At the Institute, we would like definitely to make a call to all these innovators. This is your home. The FII Institute is your home. So please, all innovators, send us your project. We have an arm also, which is a call to action. We have an arm at the Institute which is called ACT. ACT is to invest also. We are ready to invest in some very innovative projects. And the way to invest is for a simple reason. We have one agenda at the FII Institute, and our agenda is humanity. And this is what we'll be talking about on the 26th, 27th, and 28th of October in Riyadh at the 5th anniversary of the FII. So please join us. We will talk about why we should invest in humanity if we want really to build a sustainable renaissance. This is very important. And last but not least, I would like to thank, of course, our chairman, the FII Institute chairman, His Excellency Yasser Umayyan. I would like to thank all our moderators, our great speakers, and last but not least, thanks to all of you. More than 4,000 people, more than 4,000 viewers today from 86 countries. Thank you, and we look forward to see you again very soon, end of October. Thank you all, and have a great afternoon, a great evening. Thank you.